It is the day after the Republican conventions, and I now want to put myself in front of those who are scrutinizing other candidates for the sake of their stances on firearm holders' rights. Yes, Second Amendment rights. I'm fervent in protecting all of our amendments in the Constitution. Oh, one of them could go away. But 1 through 10, sacrosanct. And the Second Amendment, I need to remind people, was generated for the sake of countering tyranny. The rights of people to bear arms is irrespective of whether there's a militia in existence. Get rid of that argument. It's because the government that we formed, if it is to stay in line, it can only be done with an armed citizenry. And if it gets out of line, you need people to defend you, your neighbors, and themselves with arms. And I will go further than those arms being just guns. Folks, those arms should be any defensive weapon that could repel a government invasion. If there were credible evidence of a government plot to wipe out some sect, okay, maybe the Waco group, maybe it's the Clive and Bundy group, that group has the right to use anti-tank weapons or surface-to-air missiles in defense of themselves against a government attack. That's very, very far-fetched, but the framers were planning for it. Actually, it's not so far-fetched. The government went after the Waco people, peaceful by all accounts, just 25 years ago with big, bad ammunition. So, with that in mind, please let me answer a few of the questions on the Connecticut Candidate Questionnaire received by the CCDL, the folks who protect citizens' rights in this state. They're the best at it. It's a legislative lobbying organization, and we need them. So let me give my candid answers where more than just a check, I think, is needed. Question 3. Do you support state legislation banning the manufacture, possession, ownership, purchase, sale, and or transfer of any firearm? The answer is D. No, I oppose the ban. Those who want to ban even those AR-15s better realize it is not a prescription of safety. It's a false sense of security because the worst criminals will get them anyway. Or they'll manufacture a derivative. Okay? This is what happens with drugs, too. They ban a certain type of chemical compound, and dealers and manufacturers work around it. Same thing will happen with firearms. You ban one type, something else in the mind of a criminal, he's got to have it to do his mayhem, he'll make it. And does he really care that there's a fine of $1,500? He's about to commit murder. He doesn't care about legislative fines. If you get your ban, don't presume that people are any safer. Number 3, 4. Do you support legislation requiring individuals to obtain a state license to own, possess, or purchase firearms? D, once again, I oppose licensing of firearm owners. The state is meant to protect against actual crime. And we need to stop confusing the firing of weapons for hunting, for pleasure, or in defense with crime. We certainly need to keep the proposition that owning, whether firing or not, is not a crime. And state legislation to mandate intrusion in your life, to put regulations on your peaceable use of a firearm is out of line. I firmly oppose it. Minors might be the exception. Remember, I'm a fan of having tribunals that allow people at age as early as 13 to be determined whether they are responsible. That's responsible citizens for the sake of lots of things, including firearm ownership. So only when someone is deemed a minor would I put any level of state intrusiveness into their possession and use of firearms. Once you get a crime, it's a police matter. Clear evidence of a crime, about to be committed could be a police matter too. Otherwise, the state must butt out. Final one on the page is number 5. Do you support state legislation requiring firearm owners to register their firearms in a centralized state file or database? Answer once again, D. I oppose state registration of firearms, and that's because the state messes up almost everything it attempts to do. Why do we want to give them more power and lose power of our own? Federal government's even worse, so don't cede that to the feds. They're total mess-ups. Parkland, Florida, there were so many ways that local, state, or FBI authorities could have disarmed that shooter before it happened. They messed up at every single level. And some people want us to entrust our guns to them? Sorry, not happening. I'm Mark Stewart, to be continued.